Welcome, everybody out there, to another installment of Across the Margin, and welcome to the Party Pal Quarantine Recommends. I'm your host, Michael Shields, and sending some love out there right away. Hope everyone is safe, still staying low and staying positive, as much as positive as you can be. I know it's not easy all the time, but that's what we're here for. We're here to kind of provide some pathways towards escapism, some thoughts, some ideas on some things to dig into and just forget about things out there in the world. Thank you to Osiris for once again hosting the show. We appreciate it. Quick apology to Chris Thompson. He created a bunch of wonderful backdrops for the show like we had last week, and there's little technical difficulties, but I appreciate your work. That's Chris. He's the head of the arts department at Across the Margin. But last week we talked books a whole bunch, and that was fun. And at the end of the show, I promised that we would talk some film and television this week, and so we're going to do that right off the bat here. We will talk about some music and some other things towards the end of the show, but to help me talk about some film and television stuff, I have filmmaker Mitch Lucas, who's also part of the team at Welcome to the Party, Pal. He's one of the hosts, and he is here with me now. Welcome, Mitch, to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It's really good to see you. I don't get to see people as much as often. I know we've worked on our show. I've heard your voice a bunch as we've recorded, but good to see you.
Good to see you too. This is live, so now I feel like it counts to have something.
This counts. We can't go back and fix it up and cut out where we messed up and all that jazz. So before we get into the topic at hand, curious, you watching anything fun? Anything cross your screen recently that you enjoyed?
You know, I found a really cool documentary on Netflix called I Am Divine, and it's about Divine, who was, the star of many of John Waters' early films.
Yes.
I always knew John Waters growing up, but I always knew the movies that came out at the time that were in theaters. So I really had only started watching his early films, Multiple Maniacs, Pink Flamingos, when they started appearing on the Criterion collections and channels. And I've just been so blown away by his early work. And Divine is incredible in these films. And she was a New York celebrity and just a huge, powerful figure. And it's anyone who doesn't know John Waters and the Dreamland production that he set up, where these actors always work together on projects. You got to check this out. So it's on Netflix. It's called I Am Divine.
That sounds awesome. My daughter's real into Hairspray right now.
Really?
John Waters. But the problem is the one she loves, and it's not that big a problem because it's still good, but is the 2011 version. So it's not the Waters original. He's in it. He's a flasher in it. But Travolta's in that, and he's really, really great in that. So is Christopher Walken. So I enjoyed watching that with her. Today we're here to talk about what we did talk about in our last episode of Welcome to the Party, Pal. It was episode 50. We did a Yorgos Lanthimos retrospective, which was a lot of fun. And in it, we got to talk about a lot of his films, who he is. He's a Greek filmmaker. He's most known at this point for The Favorite. That was a movie that came out the last year, got Best Picture nominations, and Olivia Colman won for Best Actress in it. His other films that we talked about too, and we'll talk about here today, is The Lobster. That one got some notoriety with Colin Farrell, and then his first one was Dogtooth. And so in that episode, we dug deep into all three films and dug into this really, really unique filmmaker who's making some really incredibly novel pieces of art. And I know we were both taken by him, and trying to kick things off. What do you think is so special about this filmmaker?
I think the obtuseness of how he approaches his films is, I think it's, I think Dogtooth is the earliest film of his that I've seen. And that film really it's definitely bizarre, but as you get to The Favorite, there's a perfection and a sort of honing in on this talent and this skill where you can really tell that there's a lot of exploration in the scene work, how cinematography is playing into it. And, I think what you get is this sort of, that he approaches things without having a clear defined vision, and he finds it along the way during production, and it really comes out as something heavily studied, and just, there's a lot of layers to every
Yeah.
scene, and
Yeah.
I think it comes through his approach, which is open-minded, and just let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with all that. To me, his films are really rife with dark comedy, and some of it's pretty intense and not really, it not striking me as funny these days. And I'm speaking to Dogtooth. Dogtooth was a tough one. That's the one that kind of put him on
Yeah.
the map. He got his first Best Foreign Picture nomination for that. And it's about a father who keeps his family in isolation. So it's kind of, I watched it, just recently in preparation for that episode, and it was like a COVID-19 horror movie. It was tough for me, but there was still some unique dark comedy, but that dark comedy goes across all his films. I thought that's why I love The Lobster so much. The absurdism just kills me. There's social commentary that's pretty deep in his films, where he kind of he shows the ills of corruption, and kind of lets the characters play themselves a little bit, and show their faults in a really intense way. And more than anything, I think he's just a world-class world builder. He creates these unique situations, like these the worlds the characters inhabit. It's not of our own, and it's really, really impressive how he does it.
Well, if you look at a film like The Lobster, for instance, as well as Dogtooth, but speaking about The Lobster, he plays out the worlds that he's built before he explains what those worlds are. So
Yeah.
you get the world, and you get the situation, and you're somewhat confused, or you're letting it
That's the fun
sort
too.
of hit you, and then maybe the next scene, maybe down the line, you get the exposition that you need about what that was, or what, so it's presented. You're only getting little bits of information as you go, and you're left wondering. You're almost in a trance watching some of his visuals, because you're not quite sure what the reasoning is behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's kind of the fun that I have when I'm watching. Like you said, they present the world right away, and then you're trying to, you get your detective head on, and you're trying to pick apart and figure out exactly how this world came to be this way. Why is it like this? And I think that's the fun, as you're given each new piece of information as you get along. So this is a recommend show, and I'm not sure, as fascinating as Dogtooth is, I'm not sure if I'm here right now saying, go watch that, but I am. And I think my recommend from these Yorgos films will be The Lobster, and I'm thinking yours will be the favorite, and we'll get to that in a minute. um it's just, I just found it, especially in these times, it's such a fun place to escape to, because it's so unique a world. And the acting is fantastic with Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, Ben Winshaw, Olivia Colman, and I know you like this character, this actor in this film, John C. Reilly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He really this sort of American who's a bumbling idiot in this British world was it. I said it makes you feel a little comfortable, because you feel like such an outsider watching the film. To see John C. Reilly in there, you're like, okay, I feel like there's someone who's similar to me. I'd be messing up, pretty quickly in this world.
As he made it feel safe. He made it feel okay to laugh too.
Yeah. I referred to this when we did our podcast as, specifically to The Lobster, as like a world without nuance. Everything was just straightforward. And it plays into that idea of not quite understanding everything. Why are these people talking robotic? And then when you get more information, it all sort of falls together in a more, and you're sort of in it,
Yeah.
And it's definitely a bizarre film. I love the comedic take on finding love, and also just this sort of, it's another film that's becoming topical, because we're government, and we're getting more control. There's more watching, and there's more decisions being made for us Some people don't like that. Some people feel like it's necessary. And this film delves into a lot of what it's like for our government to make decisions for you.
We didn't even really say, for those who don't know, what it's about. And because every time I say it, I almost laugh to myself. It's about a society where somebody, if they are single, they're given a certain amount of time. I believe it's 45 days to find a partner, or they turn them into an animal.
Right.
And that's just like using that language and saying it out loud. It just sounds so ridiculous. But his films, they do a good job of taking themselves just absolutely seriously. There's no wink to how ridiculous it is. And like you said, the lack of nuance, they're just explaining plainly how it is the entire time. And
the absurdity
is.
The absurdity is like right there by how serious they play it.
And one other thing I really liked about The Lobster was they, like I mentioned earlier, there's social commentary in his films, and I really felt they were touching on how single people are treated in society differently than those who are in relationships or those who are family, especially. I mean, there's something like you were mentioning in a bigger picture way. The government mandate was that this is not okay. You cannot be on your own. And I thought there was a lot of commentary there, which was unique.
Yeah, I mean, there's this feeling of being an outsider if you're someone who's living at your apartment or living in New York City, especially. If you live alone, you do sometimes feel like an outsider and wonder if anyone knows you're there and things like that. So this mandate that you have to get out of that lifestyle certainly plays into the feelings people would have who are trying to find someone. It's like makes it all the more difficult, because we all know the huge cliches, like when you're not looking, it'll just happen naturally. And there's no that's all out the door. It has to happen.
No, it's fun. That's part of the fun too, how much they're forcing it and how much, I mean, they're faking it at times to find that partner so that they can pretend to be with somebody and not be turned into an animal. I love his reason why he wanted to be a lobster. I think they can mate as many times as they want. They live to 100. They're blue-blooded like aristocrats, he said. It was a cool reason there. So I'm recommending the favorite of Yorgos's films, but I know how much you love The Favorite. What do you love about The Favorite?
Well, the humor really sticks out to me. It's this sort of buttoned up world. Everyone talks very proper, and you start out with this essence of that it's a period piece. It's very formal, and it's anything but. It's very off the cuff. The dialogue is so smart and very odd. I mean, like my favorite line is there's a duck race in the very beginning, and the guy and this guy's carrying his duck around everywhere, and I think Nicholas Hoult was the character who said, "Do you have to bring that duck with you everywhere?" And he said, "The fastest duck in the city." It's just an odd.
Yeah, he was super proud of that duck.
Yeah, it really rolls off the tongue with these actors, and I talked about how it really also throws back to Barry Lyndon. If you're a Stanley Kubrick fan, I don't know that I don't know that Yorgos is like definitively trying to. I
haven't seen him say anything about it.
No, but the work is absolutely reminiscent of Barry Lyndon, and also really any of Stanley Kubrick's films. The wide angle lenses, the odd dialogue, the manner in which people talk, and there's a depth to every scene, that there's undercurrents and themes, and it's just really it's a hilarious film that's packed with darkness, but more, I think it's a little certainly lighter than Dogtooth, but even lighter than Lobster. I think if you want something that's a little bit more of a comedy, there's dark elements to it, but it's comedic through 3/4 of the film, I think.
Absolutely. It's funny. It's very funny. The lines, Rachel Weisz really gets me, how cutting and the way she talks to all the help, especially. The trio of actresses is what gets me. It's their show. All three of them, Emma, Olivia, and Rachel, they are just so incredible, the way they work off each other. I saw that Yorgos was saying that the men in the film, a couple of them are great. but he's like, they are just mere decorations.
Right.
And they just kind of revolve around this trio of women. It's shot beautifully. It looks beautiful. Yeah, it's a wild, beautiful ride. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Olivia Colman stands out for me as the
Mhm.
as really the 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 sort of diamond piece of this whole puzzle. She brings it all together with her vulnerability. I think we had talked about how she's almost sort of like a child.
Yeah.
That her reactions to things are very emotional
Mhm.
and also very kid-like, and there's like extreme vulnerability in seeing this person who's lost, I think, 17 children. She has 17 rabbits for the 17 children that she's lost,
Yeah,
and
there's
she's sort
tragedy
of
there
been
too.
reduced to a puddle of emotions most of the day. And she's being manipulated by everyone around her.
Mhm.
But as the film ends, she's still the queen, and she's still
Yeah.
the master manipulator.
Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of his films, they comment on corrosive effects of greed and power. And you see it and play out in The Favorite in a major, major way. She is such a treasure. I love that she's through this film, she's kind of got her accolades and also in The Crown, and just that she's really having a moment right now. She deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we nailed it there. Those two are two fine recommends. Anything else to say on Yorgos at all?
Well, I did a little research. His father was a professional basketball player in Europe.
For the Greek Olympic team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what that says about anything, but that's pretty cool. If anything
It's a
else.
fun fact.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does next. But you just start with either The Lobster or The Favorite.
Yep.
Go all the way, watch everything if you want, but if you're not going to go wrong with those two.
That was what was fun about this project, and I hope we do it again on future episodes of Welcome to the Party, Pal. Usually we dig on one film or one television series and really try to break it down, but going in on just a career and looking at the cross themes amongst his movies and just his progression was tons of fun. So we should definitely do that again. Just like you alluded to, only thing I left to say is I'm really, really excited to see what comes next to him. I find it inspiring that someone who makes such unique films, they're out there. They're completely out there, and they're getting respect and love in Hollywood. He's getting huge actors and actresses to work with him, and I just find that super inspiring.
Yeah, a lot of directors wouldn't be able to have such sort of open-endedness to how they approach a film and have it all come together, but he really does.
He's given a lot of freedom. It's really, really amazing. So, Mitch, thank you for joining. I'm going to move on with some other recommends, but I appreciate you taking the time this morning.
See you guys later.
Awesome. All right, gang. I have another film I want to talk about, but it kind of steers us towards music as well. It's called Up from the Streets. There's what's called a virtual event happening on Friday, February 15th, that I am definitely going to be involved in. It's a film by Michael Murphy that offers a comprehensive look into the history of New Orleans music. So it covers over 300 years of music that has come out of New Orleans. It's just a celebration of all their music, from Louis Armstrong to James Booker, blues to rock and roll. The film digs deep, and it looks tons of fun. One cool thing of note is that a portion of the proceeds for the event go to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, and their music relief fund, which is a big deal. I can only begin to imagine how many musicians down there, I think of Prez Hall and all those who just like are playing all the time, and just you can't be making any money right now. So this is a fun way. It's also it's something everyone can do together. I like when they have these things where they release them on a certain night. So Friday night, we could all be watching that apart together, which is fun. So what's also cool is you can rent it via your local theater. So you can go to watch.eventive, eventive.org / Up from the Streets, and they will show you actually each city, and you can go there and actually rent it. So some of the proceeds are going to also go towards your local theater, which I just think is really, really incredible. Onto a little bit more music. I was going to shine a light. I mean, I'm going to shine a light on a couple albums that I've been listening to this weekend. I'm spending a lot of time with the Nationals' High Violet album, and it might sound odd that I'm recommending an album that is now, been out for a decade, but it's on my mind. I was supposed to be in Ohio this weekend for the Nationals Festival. It's called Homecoming. I was gonna be enjoying it. I love their work, and also covering it for Across the Margin. And obviously, that's not taking place. Tons of great musicians were there. Patti Smith, whole bunch of others. But they were also. It was marking the 10-year anniversary of High Violet, and they were going to perform it live. And bummed about that. So I'm spinning this all weekend long, and I'm really, really excited. You should too. It's about as perfect as an album as I've come across. It just there's not a dud in the bunch. It signified a change in the National at the time. If you look at their progression going through, where their sound, I would say, became fully realized, and it's got some big anthemic rockers. It's got some real more contemplative numbers, and it's got just this big accessible sound. It's like I said, it's the National fully realized. I recommend spinning it. It's so good. I've been in love with it for a decade now. So two other albums I'm listening to. First one is other one is Fiona Apple's new album. It's so tremendous. Everyone is doing it. So, well, I mean, we should. It's something out there everyone's appreciating. So why not? It's timely. It speaks to the moment. It's raw. It's honestly, I'm not sure a better album has come out this year, and I'm seeing that idea resonate around, which is really, really cool. I could see it ending up atop the list at the end of the year as one of the best. It's that tremendous. And this morning, I just threw this in the recommends list right here. I took Car Seat Headrest, new album, for a run, social distance run this morning. It's called Making a Door Less Open. That's the Will Toledo fronted rock band. It's just a fun rock and roll album, and they're just a fun rock and roll band. It's got some like fuzzy synthesized rockers. They toy around with some kind of EDM beats in this one. It almost feels tongue in cheek, and it works most times. And it just got some lo-fi indie numbers. It's really it's a fun album, and I can't think of a time where we need more fun albums. I usually have a couch report, but I just want to point you to one place for when I'm talking about live streams or just shows that bands will be showing. What I'm absolutely hooked on right now, there's a DJ, a producer extraordinaire named Ninth Wonder, and he has what he calls the Fast Auntie Lounge. So you want to go to his Instagram and follow him, excuse me. He's an absolutely brilliant producer. He first came to fame as the main producer for the hip hop duo out of Durham named Little Brother. They're outstanding too. You should check out Little Brother. They're still putting out albums to this day. They've been in the game for a long time, and he's probably best known for his work with Jay-Z. Did a lot of work on the Blueprint, and but he's all over the place. He's worked with so many different artists. He's so talented. He goes live almost daily, and they're jaw dropping. He mixes up the theme. He did a Duck Down tribute, which was cool. He did a Greatest Remixes tribute, which is unreal. A Motown tribute, which was just flat out stunning. He did an ode to TV themes. So that's Ninth Wonder, his Fast Auntie Lounge. And the last thing, there it is. I got two pieces of paper I wanted to point you towards is I had a privilege of working with these authors and publishing a few pieces, articles at crossmargin.com that I'm super, super proud of. They're all intense in their own right, and I just want to talk about them a little bit. The first is called Living 3 Generations Beneath a Murderer. It's by Allie Burke. It's an incredibly intense real life story. It's about Allie herself. She's someone I've worked with many times. She's published me, I've published her, and she's an outstanding writer. And she's the head of what's called Stigma Fighters, and it works to break down the stigmas that surround mental health. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've been pointing at that a whole bunch. But this story in particular, it's really wild. It's about her grandfather. He was known as the Red Carnation Murderer. And what she digs into is how his legacy has affected her throughout her life, and almost feels haunted by what he did. And it was wild. There's a lot of links in the story too, which are cool about her grandfather's story. So I dug deep and learned a lot about. It was a big deal back in the day in California when it happened, and there's just some incredible stories behind that. That's called Living Three Generations Beneath a Murderer by Allie Burke. It's wonderful. Thank you, Allie, for sharing that with us. I always love publishing your work. The next piece that really got me, that we just put out recently, is called Battle for My Body. It's by Sarah Butchin. And this one was really, really timely, and it just spoke to it's a deeply personal essay, first off, about existing in a pandemic while you're dealing with OCD. And it's there's some humor in it, how finally everyone kind of came around to her point of view. She was always out there protecting herself from the dangers about and the germs and everything, and how the world kind of came and met up with her eventually. But it's way beyond that. It's deep. It's so well written. Same with Allie's article. They're both just so well written, and yeah. So that's Battle for My Body by Sarah Butchin. And the last article I want to talk about, that it just went up yesterday. It's by Doug Greco. He's a grassroots organizer in Texas, a writer. And this one's called Tragedy and Hope in Dove Springs, the Murders of Norma and Maria Hurtado. So this one discusses, it was, I forget the exact year, I think it was about 9 years ago, this hate crime that took place right outside of Austin in the town of Dove Springs, or the section of Austin called Dove Springs, where a lesbian lover was killed by her lover's father. And he has a unique connection to Norma, who was one of the people killed, Norma and her mother. He was her teacher at school, and he knew her well. And so there's a personal level to it. But it also, yeah, 1 second, please. But it also looks back at how a hate crime against the LGBT community, it examines, someone's at the door, so it examines how race, religion, economic status, and homophobia are all intertwined. So it's deep. There's a lot of levels to it. Check that out. That's at acrossthemargin.com. Got a bunch of fun articles coming up this week. And all right, that's I'm gonna answer the door. There's someone's there, and I'm gonna get it. Thank you all once again. I think we'll be back next week, but I appreciate you all taking the time. Hopefully, we gave you something to enjoy. And thanks again. What is it? Oh no.